Hello, today I'm going to be interviewing Joe Martin. Joe's a musician, plays lots of different instruments and does a lot of songwriting and stuff. So hello Joe.
Hello Vic.
We've known one another for a number of years and we've done a few projects together. So first of all, tell the listeners what instruments you play.
So I play mainly bass guitar, drums, sing a bit, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. You do a lot of songwriting as well.
Yeah, songwriting, yeah.
Yeah. So the first question I normally ask people is how you got involved with music. So what's your origin story then, Joe?
So I don't know. Yeah. So this went back to early teens, I guess, and somehow I don't know. I think it was through my parents. I ended up playing in a brass band in the town I live in. The town had a brass band that was. It was the band that belonged to the paper mill.
Oh right, yeah. So it's like an equivalent to the old pit bands.
That kind of thing, yeah. So
good.
They provided all the instruments. They provided a premises to rehearse in, and they had an interest, I think, in just. I think it might have been a community thing for them. They were a big employer in the town, and they provided this, I guess, as part of.
So where was that then?
Sittingbourne.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay. So no too. Well, I say too remote. I mean, Sittingbourne is quite remote, really.
Yeah.
It's like on another planet. Isn't it?
Well, it's not remote enough for some people, I think. Yeah.
That's a Medway joke for anybody, or just a Kent joke generally. Yeah. So
it is regarded as a Kent joke.
Well, it is. You're absolutely right. I've done some examining out at Sittingbourne, which is quite interesting actually.
Well, you managed to get away with your life, so I think you did pretty well.
Yeah. And I went back a couple of times.
Well,
so
you're obviously mad.
But that's a good grounding, isn't it, for musical to start off playing something that's that regimented.
I've forgotten I had piano lessons when I was about 7 or 8 from a lovely old lady in Sittingbourne too. All I can remember is the sound of her mouth smacking, because she was that old that she was lovely, but she was.
Oh right. Oh
all
okay.
the time when I was playing, I just found it really
Well, she was going like tut tut, or
it probably was tut tut actually. But what it did learn and teach me was the relationship between notes.
Yeah.
Even just the C scale, tones and semitones. I remember that.
In actual fact, you see, that's interesting, because that's the sort of concept that that I'm doing with this charity project within the schools. That in actual fact, you don't need massive theoretical knowledge. You just need sort of basic, like a basic map, don't you? Which is what you're saying. I think it's just that.
That's what the keyboard is.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's totally. Basic map.
Yeah.
Of how that scale operates.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can see visually that a tone is next to that when it's a white note. Next to a white note, black note is half that, and it's just perfect for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is for me now.
Yeah.
So from then, that obviously sparked your interest.
It lay dormant actually after that. Weirdly enough, I went back to playing Action Man and rugby, and in fact, until I was about 12 and somebody made me, I didn't really. In fact, I do loads of music now. I didn't do music at school. It's really bizarre.
That's probably a good thing, actually. I mean,
maybe I know. Yeah, no, I know where you're coming from.
Because sometimes it can kill it in the water. I mean, unfortunately, and I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, you would have done. Yeah.
I didn't kill it anymore, but
no,
I'm trying not to.
Well, you're outside the school system.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's just that I've often seen it with people. They return to music, and then when you start to ask them about something that they have a problem with, they often refer back to an incident that happened when they were at school, that they were told that they weren't capable of singing or whatever.
Yeah.
Let me just adjust that mic a bit, because that's the.
Yeah, some kind of trauma moment or incident. I think when I was at school, we were taught about music as history.
Yeah.
And I think that just turned me off.
Yeah.
I liked the sound of music, because I can remember one time when we were encouraged, they put the 1812 on, and we were encouraged to sort of join in any way which we fancied.
Well, the cannons.
Yeah.
Which could actually happen in the Medway town.
Sabres, cannons.
I mean, that's quite a dangerous possibility.
Yeah, in the Medway towns.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So that 1812. So that was interesting.
And so I remember that as part of the musical education. But apart from that, all I remember was another version of history, which just wasn't interesting.
No. That's again, you're sort of highlighting a lot of things that have been a bit of a bugbear to me.
Yeah, I'm
with
sure.
the system. You know?
Yeah.
So okay, from that then, we've got this return to playing with Action Man and playing rugby, not necessarily in that order,
Well,
presumably.
Sometimes mixed up.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. And then what happened? So something then must have come in and gone like
Yeah.
the touch paper.
Yeah. So what happened then? We were playing. So I was going sort of once or twice a week to get cornet lessons. They gave me a cornet. I went down to. I remember my cornet tutor was actually a euphonium player, and he only had 3 fingers. And so it just fascinated me. I can remember because I was really into art then. I still am to a certain extent, but I used to love drawing. I used to like drawing like an eye or a nose or a hand. You know, everyone did. Leonardo da Vinci's got loads of these kinds of drawings, and I used to be fascinated by seeing the way his hand moved because he had the ring finger missing.
Right.
And he played the 3 valves.
Wow.
With those 3 fingers, and it kind of drew me.
Yeah.
I just to look at his hand.
Oh, that's
and he was quite strict as well, so he kind of drove me on, which actually is exactly what I needed, in perfect honesty. And I was interested in the sound of this instrument, and we were in a small room, and then the sound of the instrument in the concert room was very different. But I was sort of, we were in this quite a big, I don't know, what was it, 50 people maybe in this brass band? And a really old drummer. This drum was so old he couldn't get onto the drum stool on his own, and they used to lift him up. Called Benny, lift him up, and it was like when he wasn't on the kit, he was disabled.
But when he started playing
on the kit, he was enabled. It was quite amazing.
Well, that's a fabulous experience to have when you're younger.
Yeah.
To see that, because there's a famous story about Rostropovich, the cellist.
Yeah.
That he was disabled until he got playing.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
And you think, that's really. And of course, we know that now because you see so many. We've got one of these sort of. It's got a mind of its own. This microphone today. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Okay. So many sort of films of people who experience that. Especially when you get people who can't engage. They might have Alzheimer's or something, and then you play music to them, and it starts to re-engage their memory.
Dementia,
And you think, well, this is something that we've always known, but you just obviously need a person in a white coat to say that it's okay to go.
Or do you? Yeah. Exactly.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you got So you're in this. Doing the cornet lessons, you see the guy with the 3 fingers playing.
Yeah.
To use a.
And his surname was Savage, and I used to think there was just something connected there. This guy he had 3 fingers. He was quite an animated kind of guy, and his surname was Savage. And there's something about
and he comes midway to
it. That's right, and that's why I think his surname was Savage.
Exactly.
He's a good guy though.
Yeah. Cool.
And I ended up playing sort of, in the concerts I was sort of. It felt like you didn't have this, but it sort of felt like I was 50th cornet, And my job was I'd sit there with the sheet music and I'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, up to sort of bar 40, and then go bop, bop, and then back to the beginning of the phrase again to the second time bar, which was bop, bop, and that was it.
Well, that's brilliant. What discipline?
Yeah, well,
because it's like being the percussionist, isn't it? In an orchestra, it's like bar 47, you're going to play.
Yeah, that's right. And I think
the big, and if you get that wrong,
you missed it. You've got to wait another 40 bars to get it right again.
Yeah, but the fact is, if you put it in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And it was a funny thing and so I was sitting at the end of this row of trumpets and corners. There were 2 rows, and on the very far right hand end were the sopranos. I was in the back row, a soprano at the far end. And then in the front row were the trumpets, first trumpet. And I just was amazed. I'd look at my sheet music, which was just loads and loads of rests, counting up through until I got the pop up. And look at his. His was just. It looked like somebody had just spilt ink across the stave.
Yeah.
But this guy could play it.
Yeah.
And you could take it off his stand, put another one on, and he could play it.
Yeah, I know.
And it was semi-demi-quavers.
Yeah, that's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
But particularly when you're a guitarist.
That's right. That's how to get to turn down, isn't
exactly. Put music in front of it. But it's that sort of thing that if that's what you're doing, and that's
Yeah.
That's the way that you're playing, and you're going to be reading, because that's not what happens for most guitar players, of course, because you start by picking things up by ear and so on.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is now, because who's to say? Because I think the nature of the guitar has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, you're there, and then what happens?
So I think now I'm thinking about it. I hadn't really thought about this, but now when I think about it, that soprano player at the end, he was probably. So I'm probably about 13 or something, and my twin brother is also playing in the orchestra, in the brass band by now. He's playing French horn, not French horn, tenor horn,
Right.
and anyway, this guy who's playing soprano, we get to know him a little bit. Turns out he's into Queen. He's really big into Queen.
Right.
So we'll start talking about music. By then we have got a passing interest in music, I suppose.
Right.
Start to get to know him, go and see him at the weekends because we're talking about music. He's a nice guy, encouraging us musically, and he starts playing us Queen and Rush, who of course, like everybody else, was led by a female singer. And we started getting into rock music from this guy because it was obviously his passion. So he'd just play us stuff. We'd watch Queen Live Killers.
Yeah.
We'd watch that stuff on VHS back then, and I was fascinated. He worked for Rumbelows, so he could buy all this hi-fi gear, and we used to go out and see him, and in his room.
That's a name from the past.
Name from the past, yeah. And he had all this hi-fi gear, and it just piqued my interest in hi-fi gear, but more than that in music. And I ended up going to see Queen with him, and he was just a top bloke. And he had under his bed a bass guitar. And he got it out for me probably once. He said he'd bought it from the bass player of Budgie. Remember that band?
Oh
Budgie?
my God! Yeah. This is really cool because it's tying up a lot. Because Budgie actually came from Crayford.
That's right. They're a local band. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And it was this 3/4 length bass. I don't know if it was from Budgie.
It could well have been.
It could have been.
Because I mean, they didn't have 2 pennies to rub together.
I was going to say because there's not an expensive bass.
No.
And he said a Budgie fan had offered him a fair amount of money for it, but he didn't want. And it was a lovely bass, and it was the first time I've been that close to an electric guitar type instrument. I was fascinated by it. I can remember the first time I ever saw, like the Les Paul knobs, where it's like a piece of amber, isn't it, kind of thing. It's the first time I'd actually seen one of those. I thought it was a bit like seeing, some people might respond to a motorbike or a racing car or something. It's like I've got to interact with this thing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So that's sort of got you started with that then.
Yeah.
So did you go and buy a bass?
So then my twin brother, he went and bought what was advertised as a Fender Jazz bass from the Isle of Sheppey for a tenner.
Oh.
And this was
okay. This is good. I always like it when we get a theme. So you went to the Isle of Sheppey and bought a bass
for a tenner.
Okay.
And this thing was.
Did it still have the tyre tracks on the back?
Exactly. That's right. Had the drag marks on the back.
Yeah.
It was just a body that someone had screwed to a neck. Yeah. And Fender, Jazz's have got 2 pickups. It had 2 pickup covers, but only 1 pickup. And he got that. As soon as he got it, I was interested in it. It was an old Columbus bass, I think, or bits of an old Columbus basses. Yeah. And then he started buying or getting hold of these old electric guitars made by Woolworths. There's really thin bodies.
K ones.
Yeah, like K's, but not as posh as K's. K's were
they had Audition.
Yeah.
And K.
That's right.
And what was the other make that they used to sell? Because a lot of them came in from Eastern Europe, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And they were sort of 3/4 the depth of a normal electric guitar. You didn't know that then.
No.
And they were smaller bodied, and the scale lengths were smaller, and they had bit fat necks, and they were basically dogs.
Yeah.
But
Island dogs. No, that's all right.
That's another island.
Yeah.
But he bought that, and he's my twin brother. So we were sharing a bedroom. We were in the top of the house, so we were in the attic conversion, and he was one side, and I was the other side, and there were sort of 2 wardrobes that separated us, which culminated in a record player. And so what we did was, I got hold of the bass and I put the bass head on the wardrobe.
Yeah.
He had a little practice amp.
Yeah.
He played electric guitar through this practice amp, and I put the bass head on the wardrobe, and it was loud.
Yeah, of course
it was amazing. Because
you had a whole speaker.
That's right.
Which was your wardrobe.
Exactly. The whole thing was vibrating, and we learned as many Iron Maiden songs as we could.
God, brilliant.
And it was great fun. That's what we did when we weren't at school.
Yeah.
We played Iron Maiden.
Yeah. So your parents tried to get you to school as much as possible.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Must have made the whole house shake.
We had complaints from the next road.
I could bet it
because it came out through the Velux window.
Yeah.
Into the next street.
And right way through the floorboards.
Yeah.
The whole house resonated as a speaker.
To run to the hills.
Yeah.
And they were running to the hills.
They were.
I see, but we had so much fun. It was like time, and we recorded it, on a tape player, and we just found we learnt this stuff so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, the thing is, because there was the two of you doing it.
Yeah.
Because that used to be the thing, wasn't it? When you were working things out. I mean, okay, I think by that time you could probably just get the music books, could you not?
Well, we didn't buy them.
No.
We didn't have any money.
No. Okay. Well, that's good then.
But I think
because that was the thing. When I was learning, there weren't no decent music books for that sort of stuff. So you were dependent on a friend who knew the bit that you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
So if there were the two of you working things out, one of you would know one bit, presumably, and somebody else would know the other bit, right? Your brother would have got the other bit. You know what I mean? It's not like you're on your own.
You're not on your own. Or it was interactive. It was like, I can remember doing we learnt the truth. The thing about Iron Maiden that made it easy was they're all in the same key.
Well, that's good then.
They're basically E, C, D, and there's just sort of various versions of that.
Yeah.
And I can remember learning the truth, or my brother learning the electric guitar, and the way it would be he'd play it and it would be interactive between us. I'd say, it's not quite like that. Isn't it like this? And so we just
exactly. That's what I'm
getting
at. Yeah. That's good. So that's how it sort of started off then. Right? Yeah. So, so you're playing bass, he's playing guitar. Then what happens?
So I think that went on for a little while. You're at school, then I got into going to church, and so I started playing. I can remember I started going to this church in the town because this American evangelist had come to the town, and I was quite taken with some of the things he said, and so I thought I'll go along. By that time, I was sort of doing things most evenings, being in a swimming club. I was playing rugby at the weekend. I was going to scouts, and obviously school homework, which I was very conscientious at. Not at all.
No, I was going to say.
I
thought that might be.
Yeah, and I went to this rehearsal with this church band, because I could play bass.
Yeah.
Except I didn't actually know how to play bass. I realised, because I knew how to play Steve Harris's bass lines, but I didn't understand what they were doing in a song. They were just a part in the song, and when you layered them with my brother's part, they sounded like Iron Maiden to us. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Well, they probably did, because I think that's the bedroom guitarist syndrome, isn't it? And it's see this a lot, which is like you're not an isolated thing.
Yeah.
Which of course, when you're in your bedroom, you are an isolated.
Yes.
So when you put them with other instruments, you don't have the language to interact with other people.
That's
right, with drummers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you see. Well, we see this at Blues Camp.
Yeah.
It's a really good example, isn't it?
Fantastic.
So, and the classic thing that normally happens is somebody's too loud because
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't they be?
Well, they're used to them being the most important thing in the room, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then you get to there, and that teaches you exactly where you fit in to the rhythm section and what the bass is doing.
What you mean?
This is what's.
Well, the funny thing was, so I went to this church rehearsal, and I don't know how I got into doing it, but I ended up going there. Probably because I had a bass or something, which I didn't because it's my brother's bass. But I think there was a bass there, and I talked to someone, and what happens in those circles is someone says, Joe plays bass, and you end up going because of that. They don't actually know anything about whether you can actually play or not. But actually, it was fine. We went to this guy's house. It was everyone's about my age, and he was just wanted people to have fun with music. He was a very nice guy. But what I realised was I wasn't playing bass. What I was doing was playing the melody. Yeah. I was listening to what they were singing, and then I was playing the melody of what they sing on the bass. And I realised, I can remember the night. I remember thinking, 3/4 of the way through, I actually don't know how to play bass. I can make this thing make a sound, and it's in tune, and this isn't bass playing though.
No.
Because I'm just playing the melody of the song.
Well, that's interesting, because we had, when I was at school, and this is something that's quite interesting, when I interview people, there's always something that resonates with something that happened to me.
Yeah.
When I was at school, I was in Dartford, so that's like another world.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wants to go
We
back
played
to.
rugby against Dartford lots of times. It definitely was another world.
Telling me.
Yeah.
So Dartford, I had a group of friends, and at the time you don't realise how good somebody is. They're just your mate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a friend who was a drummer who nearly became AC/DC's drummer.
Really?
I mean, he was amazing,
Wow.
but he was seriously on the edge of life all the time, right? So figure he was like Animal out of the Muppets. I mean, he looked like it, and he played like that. Right.
Okay.
So there was Figgy, and then there was me, and there was a really great little keyboard player who became this sort of expert at doing sand sculptures as he got older, like life-size horses and stuff like that.
Right.
But he was an extraordinary keyboard player, and he could sit down and work out things by Chick Corea. I mean, you go like, I mean, now looking back at it, it's like
that was amazing, yeah.
But at the time, it's like, well, that's what he did. And then there was me, right? And then there was this bass player called Kevin. And there's a really strange story here, because he was exactly what you described. He wasn't playing bass. He was sort of playing melody or lead guitar on the bass all the time. And it's like, but he sounded all right,
Well, John Entwistle got away with it, didn't he?
Well, exactly, and also Chris Squire yes,
Chris, absolutely.
Look at that, and I think because that was my period of time, that seemed quite normal.
Yeah.
That was okay, but that was an interesting thing because it was like I didn't have a clue. I was just playing guitar.
Yeah.
It was fine, But the keyboard player, Andrew, was like, no, you need to be playing this. You need to be playing what I'm doing on this hand. It's like, no, I want to do this. Sort of thing. So it's interesting that you said that. So what broke you from that? Did somebody turn around and go, well, hang on a minute?
Yeah.
Or did they just let you get on with it?
Well, just before I say about that, it's interesting what you're saying there, I think, because one of the sad things about that, because I think there was a period in kind of rock music where it was more acceptable for you to not be what we would call a bass player now. You didn't have to stick on the kick drum. You didn't have to play the one all the time or blah blah. It seemed more acceptable that you were part of this melody making troupe, and you weren't. I mean, you were down the bottom end just by virtue of what the register of the instrument was. But you could be playing double stops and counter melodies and stuff, and it was acceptable. And actually, you think of the sad passing of Ginger Baker. That's what he was doing the drums as well. He wasn't just locking down a backbeat.
No, of course he wasn't.
No, he was playing himself onto a drum kit. And
exactly.
if you didn't play drums and you gave him a flugelhorn, he would have sounded similar, but just very different. The expression would have been the same.
Well, same thing with Jack Bruce, of course. If you think about Jack Bruce's playing,
yeah.
I mean, okay, Jack Bruce was bloody brilliant, which helped.
Yeah.
But he was certainly going off, into other worlds from. Maybe alcohol and drugs helped a lot, because I don't even know if they knew where they were anyway.
No, but there was acceptance that sound was all right.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is now is that nowadays people are telling you more. No, this is what bass playing is.
No, that is the point. What I've been saying, and I've said this to you anyway about what goes on with music, and I see this with guitar. This sort of rather here's the roadmap.
Yeah.
Well, Jimi Hendrix didn't have a roadmap.
No.
Django Reinhardt didn't have a roadmap. Nobody had a roadmap, right? But now it's like, well, this is what so and so does. But if you stopped whoever it is that they've said this is what this guy did, they wouldn't have thought like that.
No.
I'm sure if you sort of got Angus Young and said, well, you're playing so and so scale, blah blah blah, you're like, am I?
Yeah, that's right.
So, they understand things in their own way. Even, George Benson. If you look at there's a George Benson Hot Licks thing that was done years and years ago when the Hot Licks stuff was out in the videos. And he's describing how he soloed over a set of chords. I'm telling you, within a minute, I'm lost.
Yeah.
I'm lost, and I'm supposed to know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I have no idea what this guy is saying.
Yeah.
Because he's off on his way that he thinks.
Yeah.
Which is not, the Berkeley system. You know what I mean?
And this is the problem, isn't it? I think we get into and have got into the notion that music is understood in a particular way, and that is and they are the parameters of music.
Totally.
And the only way to understand music is when you understand this system of note making.
Yes.
But it isn't.
No.
It isn't. That's describing the function of music.
Yes.
And I think what we
think it's the map of it's a map of
Yeah.
being able to explain the function of music as we see it.
yeah.
But I don't think a lot of the originators of that style, whatever it is, I mean, you know, you could just pick a style, you know, country music, you know, is that what, you know, this guy thought, you know, about Travis picking or whatever, you know, did he do that? Mel Travis? Probably not. He
Not
probably
at all.
didn't
He
did
just
think
did
like
it.
that. He did that, and somebody else came along and went, oh,
Well, that sounds nice.
yeah, he did. What was he doing? He was
Yeah,
doing
that's right. And then
and then
it's
you
ba-
assume that that's how the guy
That's
thought.
right.
And I don't think that's what happens in any style.
it gets backward engineered.
Yes,
And we force
it's
people to be forward engineered. Yeah.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
And this happens, you know, and I think this is the problem with it is we start pushing people into just performing a function,
Yes.
and we make music functional.
Yes.
Because particularly in the area of recording. So we'll
Yes.
say, you know, I don't know, we'll say you'll get, you know, you can imagine getting John Entwistle in to play. Now I want you to play. It doesn't matter what it is, but just come in and we want you to be the session bass player for this. They don't actually want John Entwistle's as a person.
No.
They'll tell him what they want out of him, and they can't. I've been in this situation. You actually feel a little bit, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying anything negative about producers or anything. But in the end, you kind of feel like you're on a milking machine. Okay, let's run that again, and it gets stripped down to, you know, what we actually wanted was crotchets in the bar or whatever it might be. Now, and the funny thing is though that when we listen to the music we love, what we talk about are the flourishes.
Yes.
The expression of music.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so what we're forcing people in to do is don't express yourself musically because we want to make a particular sound. But when we put a record on, we don't choose a record for those reasons.
No. Totally. So again, you know, the first time I experienced that in the studio, where it was like, well, why am I here? Because it sounds like you can do what
That's
it is
right.
you're asking.
Yeah.
So why don't you take the guitar
Yeah.
and do it yourself?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably did say that to the guy.
I mean, I can
because that was the type of person I used to be.
Yeah, and I can
Right.
about that. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I can understand why a producer is trying
Yes.
to be very tidy about things.
Yes.
And I think a lot of producers actually there's a real art in getting that right. And sometimes, in fairness to them, sometimes if I go in as a bass player, and let's just say I want to be more flamboyant than they want. By the end of the project, I've realised that there was a good reason. So I think you do have to
Yes.
be careful.
I think what it is, it's that thing of knowing the functionality
Yeah.
of what you're going to do, particularly when it's a recording studio.
Yeah.
Because if you're recording something, you're not doing a live performance. Right?
No, so different. Yeah.
So it's a different thing. But there is that, and then you know, and you see this in different genres of music. Well, and like, you know, what is the type of bass line that you would hear in Tamil and Motown, right? And what's the type of bass line that you're going to hear in, you know,
Oh,
Nashville? Yeah, or Iron Maiden. You know, but what I'm saying is a sort of a genre.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they were the same guys,
Yeah.
and they knew what they were going to do. So the guy walked in, you know, I've got this song, and it's like, okay, you know, okay, we've got the key, we're almost there. Oh, you want a beginning? Well, we'll make the beginning up,
Yeah.
right? So the
That's
the stacks.
exactly how they did it.
Yeah, exactly. So they had their set formulas.
Yeah.
So the producer who was working with them knew what those guys were going to do. So that was easy.
That's right.
And of course, then the problem is when you get somebody who's producing a song and they get somebody in, they've got it in their head what they want, but they haven't got, you know, Muscle Shoals band.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they want that type of, you know, sound.
Yeah.
And then suddenly,
Yeah.
unless you're an experienced player and you understand that, that's what they're looking for.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because I think what the problem here is, I don't think that actually is necessarily a problem with the producer saying, I want crotchets in the bar.
No.
This is the conversation here really is about trying to open it up for people who are learning to play and not feeling like they have to be constrained to that way of playing. They might, through the virtue of their, you know, ability and experience, come to a place where they play for crotchets in the bar because they understand the need for it in that production environment. But they would have hopefully gone through a whole array of expressing themselves musically because that's what music is.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, and again, there's certain things where you're doing a job.
That's it. That's
right?
Exactly it. Yeah.
And then you understand that that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And then there are other times that you're doing something that's more than just doing the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I think it's always interesting when you listen to bands like, I was listening to Toto the other day, and I'm not, they're not my sort of thing generally, but of course, I think it's Toto 4, isn't it, with Rosanna and all that.
Yeah.
And of course you got that and the one at the end of the album.
Hold the Line?
No, not that one. The one at the end, the big hit, Africa.
Oh, Africa,
right.
Yeah.
And you listen to those, and you think, oh my God, what amazing songs.
Yeah.
And then there are lots of other songs on the album. You sort of go, yeah, it's a bit like they are session guys doing that thing, and they're also doing. There's a little clever bit we're going to throw in here, and you sort of get that as a musician. They're sort of thinking, we'll put a little funny, clever bit in there. This brass step, nobody ever's going to nail that.
Yeah, only musos will get it.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
exactly. It's a bit like sort of, when you listen to sort of West Coast bands and think, okay, the clever one.
Yeah.
Steely Dan is a good example.
Yeah,
of course,
very good.
Right? But generally speaking, if you're doing a job, you can tell which bits when they're in a track and they're just doing the job.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they are session play, all of them.
Those session players. Yeah.
Right. So you got into that. You then started going, oh, okay, I get it now, right? And presumably your brother's doing something in a similar way, because obviously your brother's
Well, by then my brother and I were in different schools, and I think we'd gone through the whole Iron Maiden thing, and we probably left off with that now, and we probably weren't playing together anymore now. By then I had my what became my wife was my girlfriend then. Right. So I was spending lots of times with her, and I was sort of 15 and a half then, and so the world changed. I was at school I think I became more serious at school. I went back to playing brass then a bit, and I played trumpet in a jazz band.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Oh right.
And again, I was like 578th trumpet, but I really enjoyed. It was such a different energy in a jazz band than it was. So I went back to brass, but it was so different from playing a brass band, which was very sort of on the one.
Yeah.
And
somebody's got to march to it.
Yeah, someone's got to march to it. It's very upright playing, and then you went to this swing feel, which I've loved absolutely. And of course, in the brass band there was much more. Sorry, in the jazz band there was much more of a. You could feel the importance of the rhythm section in a jazz band that you couldn't feel. Even though this guy Benny was great on drums, you had Benny and you had two tubas when we played the brass band, and one of the guys on the tuba came to rehearsals on a bicycle, and this tube was so big, I don't know how he saw where he was going on the bike. But we've had rain today, haven't we? It's been terrible. I can remember seeing him cycling home from the rehearsal with this tuba. I don't know how he saw. But anyway, he had this big E-flat tuba, I think it was, with a mouthpiece like a dinner plate. Lovely. I'd love to have a tuba. The sound of a tuba, I love. And I think I always liked the bottom end stuff. But anyway, when I went and I started playing in a jazz band at school, which was my only musical interaction at school, I could hear the rhythm section. Guy playing a bass guitar. Unfortunately, they didn't have double basses. Even though the school had some double basses, they were pretty dreadful double basses. I had to go on them. I couldn't really make them do much because they were so tight, the strings were so tight. But yeah, I could hear this rhythm section, and I could hear that lilting sound, the swing sound, that I hadn't really heard live. I'd heard it on the radio, but hadn't paid much attention. And that kind of drew me down to the rhythm section a little bit more, and I think it piqued my interest in the interaction between drums and bass. Even though it was more, because it was walking, you weren't getting that sort of doof-da, kind of groove playing, but it was opening eyes. And pretty soon after that I got behind a drum kit at school just to hear that sound of the boof, the bat kind of stuff. And I started mucking about with that, and then I think we had our first band, school band, which was we just got the drum kit out of the practice room. A guy, my friend Manus, had 12-watt Marshall amp. Another guy had one as well. Somebody brought bass guitar, and we just started making sounds. So I think that's what drew me back into the music, even though I'd had a fallow period. I've forgotten all this, by the way.
It's interesting, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah,
When you start to piece these things
yeah.
together, because you can then start to get a bit of a narrative
Yeah.
to how you arrive.
Yeah.
You know how it's. You know, even early on, you see. A lot of your stuff seems to be like presenting itself to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with me, mine's been more of a sort of a furrow. You know, I'm not. For me, it's always been like, it's guitar. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and you get to that point where we need a singer.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll have a go,
Yeah,
type
yeah.
of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's how I end up singing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for you, it's like, well, a bit of drums and a bit of bass,
Yeah.
and because then obviously you've got guitar that comes in later, you know, right?
Yeah.
All right, then a bit of singing, and you know, and you've already got the brass thing going on. So you've got much more of an open sort of mix of things, right? Which I think I find really fascinating.
By then, what was also happening was I'd heard there's this country singer called Don Francisco, and he was singing all these Christian country songs. And by then I'd started going to church. I was interested in that kind of stuff, and that's where I met my wife. And we were going to a youth group, which was great fun actually. It was a really fun youth group, and I was listening to this country guy playing. He was playing a dreadnought kind of Martin and singing songs which were. So bearing in mind, I'd come through rock. I'd been listening to AC/DC, Queen, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest.
So there's nothing about people being slaughtered. And
Yeah, not so much.
No,
That's
no,
right. Yeah.
no.
And he was singing these story songs, which were these mellow kind of sounds on this country, and I love the sound of the steel string guitar.
Yeah.
So then I started learning to play steel string guitar by learning all his songs and learning that kind of what do you call it, flat picking, learning flat picking and all those kind of runs between chords, you know, down, 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 kind of all that kind of stuff. And I used to go round. Then my youth group took me round to churches round sort of the southern half or southeast part of England, and I'd go and sing these. And these are big songs like "He's Alive" that Dolly sang at the CMA Awards.
Right.
Did stuff like that with real vocal ranges in them.
Right.
And I found I could sing. Just because I loved his sound. So
it's interesting, isn't it? It's like, again, it's like it unlocks something.
Yeah,
that you don't realise that
it's
sitting in it. Yeah.
And I think I was feeling the energy on this stuff, and just, it kind of, you know, life's about joy, isn't it? Life's about.
Oh God, yeah. Again, that's one of those things that seems to be seriously lacking.
Yeah, it can be.
In a lot of people's sort of way, that everything seems to be so sort of prescriptive that you do X, Y, and Z, and this happens, and whatever. It's like, well. And this sort of fascinates me that, this sort of eternal struggle that people have about practice. It's a bit, I never thought about practicing as a kid. You just did it.
Yeah, because it was
just played.
joyful.
Yeah, because you played.
That's right.
And now it's like, little Simeon isn't practicing the guitar enough. And you think, well, what's he doing?
Yeah.
Well, what else is he doing?
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't do very much, really.
Yeah.
It's that sort of.
I mean, thank gosh we didn't have. I mean, we were starting to have computers and stuff then, but everyone is overtaken with video games and
oh my God,
all that kind of stuff. And people are going for a quick win now. The quick win of kind of, I don't know. And I've done plenty of video game playing. Don't get me wrong, but it's a distraction sometimes. I'm not knocking it, but I think if that had been around when I was a teenager, I may not have got into music, and that's a shame.
Well, in actual fact, I'm seeing that there are a lot of boys not getting into anything.
That's right,
including people.
Oh,
right,
yeah,
you look at there's a guy who lives next door to me, and then you sort of think like it's almost like it's become a vocation. Like, well, he's a gamer. Right? And of course, in the past, that meant that was somebody who had like 4 girlfriends on the go at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A gamer.
Yeah, and now it's somebody who sits alone, staring at a screen.
Worlds.
Yeah, conquering worlds and speaking to disincarnate voices on the other end of the internet. And shouting swear words out of the window when they don't manage to get the magical sword that they were going for.
And you can hear this next door.
Yes, I can hear this, and I'm looking at this and thinking, oh my God, isn't there any? Has he discovered that there are women or even other men? I mean, I live near Brighton, so anything, even sheep
with a pulse. Yeah, that's right.
Anything that moves, basically. You think. It's very strange. It's a very strange.
Sheep.
Well, there aren't many sheep.
Yeah,
around.
we've got to go a bit further west for that, really.
Well, there are some sheep down in Firle, but
Yeah, they look very frightened.
in Clyde. Yeah. But there's a lot. They're safe because there's lots of boys playing computer games.
That's right.
But anyway,
The gamers.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame, and I think that's the thing. It's like, you know, when I was a teenager, there were the way you're describing it's almost like these things came to me and they distracted me into this world of music.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they did, because what a world, you know. It's a
exactly.
fantastic world.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And it's sort of like you look at this and you think, well, you know, what's David Grohl's thing about you know, getting people together, like, you know, kids getting together in the garage making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. That's what we were doing.
And seriously, that's what it's about. And you look at that now and you think, you know, that's sad that it's not, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
You know, okay, pain in the arse to everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
But some of the best bands have come out of that scenario.
Totally.
And
in fact, at one point in time, every band came out of that scenario.
Yeah.
And you think, well, from a social point of view, I mean, yeah, friendship groups and all the rest of it, and you think, well, what, you know, again, it seems very strange that, you know, it's sort of gone into that thing now where it seems okay for kids to be spending hours and hours, even into the middle of the night, playing on a computer game.
Yeah.
I find terrifying. What's going on?
I think it's a shame. I mean, like I say, I've done lots of gaming it's actually till recently. Well, I say recently, probably a year and a bit, that I've played. Not that, you know, not massively regularly, but for me, sometimes it's been a nice outlet when you've done everything else, but you've been.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad for everybody, but I'm just saying that now, when you get young kids who that is what they do.
That's what I mean, though. I think if it becomes the all in all, then it's a difficult thing, and I think in some ways, I don't want to over egg it, but it does have a real grasp over you if you're not careful.
Well, I would say that
because there's always something more to do.
I don't even think it's even a case of over egging it. I actually think we are now destroying young brains by the fact that their attention is not theirs anymore.
Yeah.
It's being stolen from them, because that's how games work, as you say.
Yeah,
it grabs you. Oh, I think I'm doing all right. Oh no.
Oh, there's another bit.
Yeah.
And then it's 8 hours down the toilet.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing that I find really troubling.
Yeah.
That they're not in their space in their time, making decisions that's not being stimulated from outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas music has always been, there's something you do with other people.
Exactly.
I mean, some people don't do it with other people, but even people who do it on their own, like a singer-songwriter, they still talk to the guy on the sound desk. They talk to the guys who come and see them. They talk to the guys.
You've still got to have an audience.
You've got to have an audience. People want to talk to you. It's an outward-facing thing, and that's another night. I mean, I'm not particularly a people person. I don't find that easy. But music is a lovely way to connect with people.
It is. Yeah. Well, in fact, lots of performers aren't people. I mean, Prince is a good example.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know? I mean, he's the most unpersoned person.
That's right.
And yet, what a bloody amazing performer.
Incredible.
You know.
And there's that thing, you know, Prince, we're going back to that thing with what I was saying earlier about that drummer, and you were saying about how these people are disabled and then they go onto the instrument and they come alive. And Prince was like that. He was two people.
Yeah,
he was obviously two people.
Yeah, he was.
I think actually all of us are more than one person.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
And music has this beautiful way of awakening a part in you, or one of the people in you that you didn't know you had.
No.
And usually in music, I mean, even if you accept the sort of, and nothing against this band, but a Slipknot kind of expression of music, which I don't have anything against. But it's more of obviously an aggressive kind of. I mean, fantastic players, don't get me wrong, or you accept Dolly Parton, whatever. It doesn't really matter what the expression is. They will awaken it. Music, if you can grasp hold of it, will bring out something you didn't know you had.
Absolutely.
And I can't think. What I'm trying to say about the Slipknot is, I can't think of a time when any musicians I've met really is brought out a part of them which is destructive.
No. Well, it's a classic example of all of this because you know you probably if you met these guys, they're probably really nice,
That's exactly.
right?
That's the
Oh,
funny
they
thing.
don't normally go around slaughtering chickens and stuff like that,
No,
you know,
that's right, yeah.
you know, or biting heads off bats or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're doing that's the gig they're on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a performance.
And I always thought this was interesting because the sensational Alex Harvey band,
Yeah.
right? Zal Clemenson, the guitarist, right? And you know, you can look at them in their day. I mean, they were. I mean, Alex Harvey was a hard nut, you know, Glaswegian and could look after himself and everything.
Yeah.
And it came through in the music that this guy was the man, right?
Yeah.
And you think, well, of course, by extension, so were the rest of the band, right?
Mm.
And of course, Zal Clemenson was this incredible ragtime player.
Right.
And you go,
Yeah.
where did that come from?
Yeah.
Right?
Put it together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But and it's like, well, he just happens to be playing this serious guitar
Yeah.
for a serious band,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And but no, he could sort of play all these amazing sort of Scott Joplin things.
Yeah,
You go
amazing.
like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So I think that's the thing that we tend again because we have this idea that it's some sort of commodity, that these people that's what they do and that's it. Right? But it's often not.
That's right.
Yeah. Right, so you're playing in a band. Now I want to get to this point where you're doing umpteen things for all sorts of different people, and the project you've got now, Big River. I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
How did you start? Because you're doing so much stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible. So what?
That's what my wife says.
Yes, I know. So yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll gloss
We won't
over
gloss over that.
Yeah, but you understand what I mean.
Oh yeah.
So you do lots of different things. So where did that really start to kick in? Because I think that is fascinating for people who are interested in.
So I think let's go back to that jazz band situation where I'm sitting on the back row playing the trumpet, and I'm playing a counter melody kind of, and it's written down. I'm still playing dots on the page now, and I never found that easy playing dots on the page. I liked what it did for me because it gave me something instantly sounded good, but I never found it easy to do. But and the other side of the room is this rhythm section, bass guitar, drums. Oh, that sounds nice. I'll go off. I know there's a drum kit in the school somewhere else. I'll go and find it. I can still remember all those Black Premier like they always were. Horrible tuning and stuff when I think back now, but I didn't know about that. Get on it. Oh, I can make that sound. I can get an interaction between the kick drum and the snare that isn't just boof, ba, boof, ba. I remember the first time feeling I could go, if I put a kick just before the snare, go boof, ba-bath, boof, ba, boof, ba-ba. Suddenly get a movement in the music. And I'm realising there's a possibility here that I can do something with this pile of shells, drum shells, you know. And I think for a while it wasn't long after, if I'm perfectly honest, it was only 3 years after that I got married. I was married at 19. I went to art college, so art college then became more consuming. Oh, we played actually think about it, we had a band in art college too, I forgot all about that.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it? And same thing, people would just say, oh, you play bass, don't you? You play guitar, don't you? You play drums. Oh, why don't we bring our instruments and have a... And the great thing was, there's no one there going, and this never happened, I think, generally in the music I've played is, no, we didn't do, I don't know, Hotel California or how, and we didn't ever have that situation, or I tried to avoid a situation where it doesn't go like that, it goes like this.
Oh, I know.
None of that.
Oh, I know. And
so I didn't tend to be around people who talked like that.
No.
And I don't think that's a great way of getting the best out of people.
No. In fact, that's, you know, again, it's that idea that I'm sure when they were recording Hotel California, nobody cared what happened in Bar 33.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It was like, did that work? Yeah, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, you know, I learnt this bit and it's supposed to be this semi-quite. Oh, come on.
And I think YouTube's been great for that, because YouTube's shown us that when Free played, you know, whatever song it would be, you can find immediately 3 versions and playing it live. The tempo's different every time. They're doing different things at different times. They're even putting more bar lengths in at different times, and it's okay. And no one ever said to them, "Oh, you did that wrong."
No.
Because they were free, and they were free, and they were free. You know.
Absolutely.
But it was. I think what happened then is I went to art college, and I was married. Then I went and lived in Sheffield. And I had to live a real life with a job,
All right.
and I had then I was painting a lot because
Well, that's quite interesting. Sittingbourne to Sheffield.
Sheffield, and I was painting because I wanted to go to art college.
Yeah.
And so I remember the bass guitar was in the room because by then I had a bass and an amp and all those things, and I did go and play bass one time because I didn't know people in Sheffield except for the students, and they weren't playing in bands. There weren't no live bands in the that I knew of at the university, which is odd. They were visiting bands, but there weren't people who'd made bands up. There was one mate of mine who ended up being best man too. He played guitar, so we got together a bit and stuff like that. And I went and played bass guitar one time at this place, and I got there. I'm pretty good at getting there on time. You know, musicians, it doesn't really matter, kind of thing. And I got there and I set my bass out, and I had a big bass amp then. Like I had an 18-inch speaker in it, so it ripped my arms off trying to carry it around. And I set myself up, and then somebody else came along and they said, bear in mind there's loads of space. He said, well, I normally stand there. And I was like, and there's some space there, you could stand there, could you not? Bearing in mind this thing weighs a ton, this bass amp, you know. And I thought then, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't go back and play with them. They wanted me to go and play, so I thought, I'm not doing that. And I think I didn't play really, not because of that, obviously, just because I had other things to do. And it wasn't till then I went back to... So I had a big gap of playing now, I'm thinking about it. I went back and I studied architecture, and I really did that. Actually, then I started rolling music into architecture, that's right. So I started playing when we had crits, because a crit is a critique, obviously, where you put your work up on the wall at the end of the project and they say, that's good, that's not good, and there's 50 people around because it's the rest of the year, or 52 people. And sometimes there's other years, so it could be 50, 75, 100, 120 people. And I'd bring a drum kit in, and I'd say, well, this piece of architecture, it's got a rhythm to it. And I've got to get someone to come play with me, or I play bass and get someone else to play drums. And the idea was to make it like a happening. We did cooking as well. We did cook people food as they listened to the crit. The idea was that to stop people just looking at buildings on the wall.
That's a good idea.
Say this is bigger than just my drawings of a building, of a possibility of a solution. Just one possibility, and I'm just one potential architect. There's something bigger here, which is this building could do things for people, and you can be part of the experience. Yeah. So that's what I think. I got back into music through architecture in some ways.
Yeah, that's really.
And then I joined, and then I think I just got involved. Oh yeah, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go on.
So one thing in this interesting, when I had a fallow patch of not playing a lot, and these guys, in fact, I didn't know until later on, but remember I said to you about Don Francisco? Mm. So Don Francisco was an international recording artist, played around the world, blah blah blah. So he was a name that could draw a crowd, in other words. And when he came to the UK, he had a band, so he either played on his own. I did go and see him when he was just playing on his own, and him with his Martin Dreadnought. Oh my gosh, what a sound in the room. But anyway, but if he didn't, he played with a band, and actually I knew that band and I didn't know. And one time they were playing a conference in Cornwall, and they said to me, because I played with them a little bit, and they said to me, could you come down and help with the sound? Come down and be the engineer's assistant, whatever. And this weekend, so okay, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. And we've got a van, and we'll fill it with gear. And so why don't you stick your bass in, and then you can come, because that was normal. I went and played with them, did some recording with them, just playing around and learning to do recording. And when I got down there, helped the guy set up, sound check, and it was keys, guitar, drums, bass, 3 vocals, acoustic guitar kind of thing. No bass guitar yet. When's the bass guitar coming? Yeah, he's actually here. Is he? Well, could he set up then? Because we're running out of time here. Yeah. We'll get him set up. Just don't worry about it, Joe. Just carry on, kind of thing. And after a while, where is this bass guitar player? Because we're running out of time for sound. Yeah, he's here. Okay, can we have him up? Yeah, he's you. And they got me up, and they knew that I was glued to music books by then. They knew that I was playing this stuff, and I was looking at music books by then. And they knew I didn't need music books, but I didn't know I didn't need music books. So they got me to play this conference, 500 people or something, with them, without music books. Changed me forever.
Amazing.
Because I realised you don't need music books, you just need ears.
Yes, that's great. What a great lesson.
And
What a
really,
great lesson.
it was a great, and I'm really grateful to them because I wouldn't have had the balls to have done that.
No,
And they made me do it in front of people, so I couldn't run away.
no.
I was the only bass player there, well,
Right.
you know, involved with it,
Yeah, yeah.
and they made me do it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great story. So, project Big River. Tell me about that.
Big River's fun. So Big River is a blues rock outfit. Write our own stuff. They've been going for, what would you say, 5 years? I think 3 or 5 years. I'm not really sure if I'm honest. I got to know the main guitarist Damo because I did some recording project, and he was the guitarist on it, and I was the bass player. They needed a deck bass player for some gigs, and so he rang me up one day or messaged me or whatever saying, you know, it was nice to meet you at the recording the other day. We need a deck bass player. Are you interested? I said, yeah, I'm interested. I'm always interested in doing things. I like meeting people musically, and I like doing different things. And what they were doing was the sound I was into when I was a teenager, because we were into 70s rock kind of back then.
Yeah.
Mind you, weirdly, I've said this to you before. You know, to my shame, I never listened to Led Zeppelin except for Stairway to Heaven and a couple of others. I never went down that corridor. I don't know why. So they needed a deck bass player. So I did a load of gigs with them. It was fun, loved it. Really, it was great. You know, it was one of those things where you have to show up and you have to play 25 songs and you've got to play them right. And you know, you don't have a lot of time. You know, I think the guy rang me a week before the gig, so I did my best. But you just got to be on it on the night, you know. And I did that probably, I don't know, a dozen times with them, or half a dozen times. And then the drummer left. I decided to leave, and so they were organising auditions. Thank you, for drummers. And I said to Damo, I play drums too. Did you know? No, I didn't know you played drums. So I went down as one of the auditionees and got the job as the drummer. So I thought it was great, because by then I kind of wanted to be in the band because I liked what they did. I liked the sound. It was simple but moving, ballsy blues rock, and it took me back to my teen years really in some ways. But then I was going on holiday and they had 3 gigs in the week. So they said, well, okay, you got the gig, but is it okay if the original drummer covers those gigs? We don't want to pull out. Yeah, of course. And he decided he didn't want to leave by the end of the week when he'd done these 3 gigs and they were fun. One of them was on TV and that kind of thing. So it was quite a fun week of gigs. So then I came back and I said, well, why don't you play rhythm guitar then? So I played rhythm guitar. I think I did half a dozen gigs on rhythm guitar. And the drummer decided he wanted to leave by then. Clearly he wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do musically. He's a really good drummer. He's got a marching band background, so he's a very technical drummer, really, really good.
So you walked out.
Yeah, that's right, he marched out. And but they made me audition again. I didn't go straight back on drums. They made me audition with another load of drummers. So I talked to Damon and said, look, because by then obviously if I've got the drum gig, then I'm not second guitar anymore. So I brought my twin brother in and said, well, if I went on drums, he could do second guitar. So why don't we audition that sound? So we auditioned that sound, and it stuck.
Right.
And we're still there. My brother isn't in the band anymore.
No,
but we tried that for a while. That worked really, really good. But actually, we wanted to go back to that simpler sound, which is basically a 3-piece sound, isn't it?
It is.
Four players in it.
Yeah.
And that's just great fun. It's very. We just get out there and do it, and it's.
It is. There is something in that open sound of just
exactly
three instruments and effectively a 3-piece, whether you've got a separate vocalist or not.
That's exactly it.
There is something in that.
Yeah. It's so uncomplicated. It's so raw. It's expression. It's nimble.
Yeah.
It's really nimble.
Yeah. You have to. It's a different sort of mindset to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're doing quite a lot of stuff with them now, aren't you?
Yeah, we released an album 2 months ago. It's going really good, really well. People love it. Called Redemption. So it's Big River Redemption. People love it. We wrote loads of songs for that album and only recorded 10. So we've got probably 30 songs that we could, if we wanted to get back on. Well, that's what we're going to do now. We're going to start writing for the next album, or gather those thoughts and make them into songs, just like you do. And make them into the next album.
Yeah, that's good. It's really good.
And what's been really good is actually getting great support slots.
Yes.
So we've had some really good support slots, and so therefore introduced ourselves.
How did you get those? Because
I don't know.
I mean, there's some really, because I've been interested in the sort of gigs you've been doing. Because I've been doing really good gigs.
Yeah, really good.
Which is another area. It's either very fallow or it's, so.
So I think we've decided, we've done obviously a million pub gigs like everybody's done, and they're fun, they're great, but what we found is where we enjoy doing stuff is the support gigs, because then we get inspired by the person we're supporting, and there's that sense of, we're meeting so and so, and it's nice to be involved. We're meeting their audience, and they're meeting us, and usually, obviously, there's a similarity in people you're supporting, so they then like what we're doing, and perfect honesty, we've sold records by doing it, or CDs or online stuff, or whatever, and so it's that, or actually doing festivals. Festivals are great, really good. So we prefer that kind of way of doing stuff than pubs, because people are usually more engaged in what you're doing.
Oh God, yeah, and also if you're really good and you're playing a pub, people never really realise how good you are because you're playing in a pub.
That's exactly it.
It's an interesting problem.
Yeah. You're in competition with Ham, Egg and Chips.
Yes, you are.
That's the trouble.
Or Hurlemans or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So if you met your younger self, what advice would you give?
Belt up.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
No, I think my younger self, I would have probably just don't worry so much.
Yeah, it's interesting how often that comes out.
Yeah, just don't worry so much. There's this phrase that people like to use now. You've got this, don't they? They say, and I think I probably would have said that to my younger self. Don't worry, you've got this.
Yeah.
You've got all you need to have fun musically.
Yeah.
And don't worry about getting it all right. The other thing is, just in this whole stack up, is don't worry about getting it right all the time, for goodness sake. Yeah. There's always someone to stare at in the band if you do something wrong and make it.
Absolutely, that's the tricks. That's how you learn. That's the tricks that you learn.
That's right. Yeah, my gosh, what was that? What are you doing, drummer? There's always someone to look at, and it's just fun. It's as much fun getting it wrong as getting it right sometimes.
Yeah. Well, again, if you think, what is getting it wrong?
Yeah.
Who said that's wrong?
Yeah.
I do this with a lot of kids, where you're putting songs together. You teach them how to sort of segue numbers, and it's like, okay, this bit here, this part in the middle, that's really difficult. So we're not going to do that. And it's like,
I know.
You can say that sort of from
the bottom drops out of their world. Yeah.
What? No, we're not going to do that. Yeah. You could put just another bit from another song in there.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah. Well, people have this religious mindset.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I called it the note police.
Yeah.
The note police. So they're going to come and arrest us.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, no.
And then you see other artists who go and do it themselves to their own songs.
Well, Zeppelin, you mentioned Zeppelin, are the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Whole lot of love.
Yeah.
What happened in the middle? Well, certainly not the drum solo.
Absolutely.
And certainly not the theremin.
Yeah.
It'll be like, well, whatever songs we think we're going to do tonight,
toss them in there.
Yeah, just chuck them in there.
Yeah.
Some, medley of 1950s rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And when we catch each other's eye, we'll go back into the song.
Exactly.
Or Sting does it. He's gone and made it. Changed the style of all of his songs, and if you did it, you felt like you were doing something, sacrilegious.
Well, that's I think actually we should do that. I think we should do that sort of iconoclastic thing of just, you can't do that with a song.
Yeah.
Just
watch me.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Let's see how we can rip this up.
And I love those albums. I've really enjoyed those albums where they've left on the wrong notes.
Yes.
I just love that about. I have so much respect for somebody who's, particularly like we were saying earlier about the production process and the importance of not being over flamboyant or whatever you might choose to think is important about the sound. But I love those producers who've gone and left the wrong notes.
Yeah, I was listening to Harvest Moon by Neil Young, and it's just a bunch of acoustic guitars in the song. Really, it's a lovely song. And there's one guitar, and the bass string is, I think it's detuned down to a D, and it's definitely not in tune. And you can hear that boing, but it just adds something to the sound. Yeah. And it's not wrong, it's not in tune, but it's not wrong.
Yeah.
And you think, Yeah, it's great.
And then it makes it hard for the music police to then reproduce that song, doesn't it? 'Cause
Yes.
they don't want to be out of tune.
Oh my God, yeah, that's
And
right.
they can never get that tension in the sound.
No,
then.
well, that's it, you know, and you sort of think, well, it's when people try to do this stuff and do it note for note, you think, okay, if you're being paid to do it for note, well, fine. Yeah. But why would you do it otherwise?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean that's another whole thing. The system of if you're being paid to do this note for note, is you got to make a decision there about how you approach life when that's that's what's being laid out in front of you. Lovely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's a lovely way to make a living, but or not. You know, it's like any way of making a living. What you think you're doing, what you're actually doing.
Well, it's like acting, isn't it? It's when people, it's like, what am I allowed to do on this? What's going on here? And I think there are lots of parallels between music and acting.
Yeah.
Where you can sort of look at like classical music being like a Shakespeare play. They got the notes right the first time, so let's try and keep the notes right in this one, right?
Yeah.
To playing contemporary music, which is like, well, it's like a conversation. We might be talking about the weather, but it's not the same words that we used yesterday.
That's right.
But somehow we've lost that, as if we're now trying to make contemporary rock music into a Shakespeare play. And it's like, well, that's not what it was about.
It seems to me that sometimes music or people learning music, it can be the whole thing about instant music, really, just like instant coffee. It's what's the easiest way for me to sound like Jimmy Page, or for what's the trick, basically? What's the trick?
Oh yeah, that's it's always the thing, isn't it?
Whereas music was always an art form, was always an expression of yourself through an instrument, and I know that there are obviously some steps you can take, and you might want to call them learning a song, whatever it might be. And it's true, they do teach you things, but the bottom line is, it's still you and the instrument and music, and other people, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, that was great fun, Joe.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
So,
thanks, Vic.
So how can people contact you musically? Maybe the Big River stuff would be good contact.
So Big River's obviously, like everything, it's on Facebook. Is probably the easiest way to do it. Just look up Big River. Yeah. We're on Instagram as Big River Band, I think we're called on Instagram. Okay. I'm always interested in, you touched on, I do loads of one-off projects, which I really love. So, if you ever need a bass guitar drummer.
And they can get you through that, can they?
Yeah, you look me up, Joe Martin, Facebook.
Right. Okay. Well, people can probably get you via me.
Yeah, or Vic,
Yeah, so that's cool. Well, anyway, that's really good fun. So
thanks
very much.